All right, guys, so now we're going to wrap up the install of the AFX Motorsports flat roof. Okay, guys, so I'm setting up the H-bar. One of the things you need to do is you're supposed to do the passenger side first and then drop in the other side. Now, this uses the existing nuts that came with it from Can-Am. Those nuts actually wore pretty badly. I think they were just kind of painted over and they kind of got scratched up, and so in turn they've started to kind of corrode a little bit. I'll probably put some fresh new nuts on there. I'm gonna do this for right now, but you've got the 3 spots. Now, you're not supposed to tighten it down completely, but what I am gonna do is to get this to wedge in there, because it's a pretty tight fit. I put a clamp on it to bring this guy down. It was kind of protruding up, and I'm gonna tighten these 2 down just to kind of keep the front in place. The rest is lining up pretty well without an issue. They are slotted, so you can just drop them in, just like the factory one. The only one in the factory one that's not slotted is the rear, just like this. So we're gonna tighten these down, get the driver's side in, and then we can start lining up the roof. All right, guys, one of the things I found really useful in installing the H-bar is to use a clamp. And what the clamp does is it actually helps realign the H-bar to the frame. This portion was off a little bit. It wasn't lined up correctly. Even though the nut was in, or the bolt was in, it was up a little higher. So the clamp pulled it back down to line it up correctly. There's still some alignment going on, like here, trying to line up these holes a little bit better. Got to get this end down. So one thing we got to keep in mind when we're dealing with something like this is these frames, even though they're done by production, there's going to be some variables between one frame and the next. They will not be exact. So it is hard to get these H-bars perfect, but it's just taking some time, a little rubber mallet, knocking things in place, tightening down bolts. So I'm going to continue to move forward with this to get this lined up. Not much to really show on video. It's just more about, you know, tightening bolts and making sure things are nuts, excuse me, and making sure things are aligned. So let me keep at it and we'll keep moving. Okay, guys, so I've got the H-bar pretty well lined up. It is a little bit of work, and what I say by that is trying to get all aligned. So using that clamp I showed you earlier to kind of line these up and down, a rubber mallet knocking things down in place. And I will warn you, this center section, which is what you do last, starts off really misaligned. It's pretty funky, and you're like, oh man, this doesn't look like it works right. But after you get everything else all tightened down, or not even tightened down, but in place and fairly snug, you'll come back and you'll put the 2 bolts through here. And once you tighten this guy down, it gets really nice and lined up. It is a little bit off, you can see right there, which really, I don't think it's gonna really matter. The only thing I am looking at, I'm gonna see if I can pick it up on the camera, is this guy does protrude up a tiny bit. So one thing I'm gonna take a look at doing is once I get the roof on it, sorry about the noise there. Once I get the roof on it, we're gonna kind of see what rubs and doesn't rub. And if I have to, I can go in and grind a little of this material off and put a little touch-up paint on it if I have to. I might not need to do that. But overall, I mean, it looks really good. Nice sound structure. They did a good job of trying to match up the paint, which is really cool. It's got these little gussets or whatever in it to be able to help reinforce it, but it does line up pretty well. So I think we're moving in the right direction. So we're gonna keep moving forward, and I'll get some video going on the actual roof alignment and install and things we're gonna do there. All right, guys, now that we have the H-bar all bolted down, we're gonna go ahead and start on the back side of the roof first. You want the front part of the roof to overlap the back part. That way any air just travels right over the top of it. First thing we have to do is, the hardware that came with it is a little bit, the holes are a little too small. They don't quite go in. So not really a big deal. Just gonna drill out a couple holes here on this. That way it's lined up. There is I'm gonna show you a U-clamp that goes underneath. We're gonna talk a little bit about that and where we're gonna put our foam. We're gonna look underneath here and find a place to put some foam. I got a little bit different foam than they gave, but we're gonna go through and get this bolted down and go from there. All right, guys, I just wanna show you how minimal amount of drilling is needed to get this to fit. It's just, that's it, just a quick little thing. You can see it barely brings out any material. Then at that point, it drops right in and it's nice and snug. So you'll have to do that on these holes. Now, I don't know if they'll all come out that way. Mine just happened to be this way. It just could be the way it was being machined. I don't know, but real simple. So we'll keep moving forward. So this is how it mounts to the new H-bar. It just uses a little bracket here and some nuts and bolts. Now, I haven't tightened this down because I just have it going through the rear. The front will overlap and this bolt will go through both the front and the rear. As you tighten it down, it will compress it down. So you want to look and see the hard point. So there's a hard point here. When you bolt it down here, there's going to be some metal on metal, and that's mainly what we're looking for, is the metal on metal spots. So we can use like a weather stripping from either Home Depot, Lowe's. They do include a little bit of weather stripping with it as well, the kit, which is nice. I'm going to see if I want to use theirs or what I have, and that's just going to make sure, again, that it stays nice and quiet, no rattle, nice clean setup. The other thing you want to watch out for is sliding this thing around. It scratches really easily in the mounting. Once it's installed, it won't be a problem. I think I can clean a lot of that out. This is just dust from the packing material, but I got a little bit of a mark from sliding it across trying to align it, so you want to be really careful about that. But so far, it's coming along pretty good, so I'm going to keep moving forward. Okay, guys, so while I have the roof off, I'm going to multitask here, and I'm installing some little dome lights. Okay, put another one over here, just to get some interior, like cab lighting for the vehicle. That's the one thing that doesn't come with. I've been using a temporary Dragonfire sort of zip tie type situation, but I run these wires across and run them down, get in. I've already got some switches set up for my roof light bar and such, but we're gonna add another dome light switch. That way we can turn the lights on and off inside. So I'm gonna get that wrapped up, and then I can move back over to putting the roof on, but I wanted to get that done real quick as well. If you have your vehicle this far apart with the roof off, might as well knock it out. Super easy. And these were inexpensive. A buddy of mine, Jacob, found them on eBay, and he's used, or actually I think Amazon, but he's using them in his Can-Am, and they worked really, really well. There's some good mounting points for the factory roof. So if you're running the factory roof and you want to run the dome lights, that's something you'll easily be able to do as well. All right, guys, so I showed you I had a little bent corner on the roof, so all I did was put a little piece of like a plastic underneath it. You could use wood as well. And I just took a rubber mallet and slammed on it a few times, and if you can see here, it cleaned it up really nice. It's pretty flat now. So just the nature of the way this is going to ship, there's going to be a chance of this happening. So I just wanted to show you guys a really quick and easy way to fix it. Definitely use a rubber mallet, not a hammer, because you don't want to scratch up the metal and kind of mar it up in any way. So I'm continuing getting ready to put the actual main portion, the front portion of the roof on. I've got all my wiring done for my dome lights now, and it's all set up. So I've got a temporary zip tie here to hold it together. We're gonna get it all in there, and I can zip everything up and run my wiring, and then we'll figure out the weather stripping of where that's gonna go. Okay guys, one of the modifications I've made is to have to do with this spacer that goes right in between this area here, and this bolt goes through it. It's a flat spacer, but I've done is I've gone in and I've ground it down, and it's now sitting more at the angle. So you can see where I ground it. Before it was wanting to really protrude right through this area here. So by grinding it down like this, we're gonna pretty much match up with the angle of the roof, and that should help it seat a lot better. All right, guys, so here's the look at the finished product. So again, AFX Motorsports, this is the lowered edition. So the lowered edition has this very lowered front end that brings the roof really far down. There's a Dooner edition that goes like way up here that barely covers the front bar, which gives you a ton of like upwards view, as opposed to this kind of chops some of that view off. So a couple things about this roof that I found after it's now been completed is a lowered edition does block a little bit of your vision and your view. The Dooner version is very similar to the factory roof, and I kind of want something in between. I'd be looking for something that's not quite this low, but at the same time also kind of covers the bar and gives a little bit of a cleaner look. So overall, the roof for the money is a pretty awesome roof. It came out really nice. There were some modifications to things that I needed to make to really make this roof fit properly. One of them is by doing some weather stripping, and you can see here I've kind of done some weather stripping all along the edge of the roof. There is a lot of gaps that are created with this roof that don't look very pretty, that also can lead to some audible noise and vibration and rattling. So I've gone through and I've done the weather stripping, and I'll show you exactly what weather stripping I used. I've even got it down underneath the seams to make sure that we keep our vibration down. The actual screw holes had to be drilled out. That's something I showed you in the installation process. Very easy to do, just a simple drill out to make sure there's enough room for the threads to go through. And then of course, I don't know if you could see it, but up inside here, we've got our spacer. Those spacers, which allow this roof to sit properly with the curved bar that comes up. You can see there's kind of a curvature and it comes up. I can tell you right now, those spacers being flat did not work very well. I had to grind them down, which again, you see in the installation video. So you're definitely going to want to grind those guys down to make sure that it angles it correctly. You can basically just match the angle, the grind angle of this guy right here. So if you match that up on the mount, it'll be a lot cleaner. The screws do not mount flush on the very front. I'll show you the other side, same thing. And that's just a product of taking something that is fairly angled and going into something that's very flat. So that's the only thing. It's not really that big of a deal. It doesn't look too bad. It's not really noticeable. I would probably need to bring it to your attention for you to even notice that it was there. The other thing I needed to do was I added a few little spacers up in here. When you tighten this guy down, what happens is it makes this kind of bend down, and it kind of has a weird little whoop to it, which doesn't really look right. So by adding those spacers, it flattened it out. And again, you can see the weather stripping I've done all along here. Also did some weather stripping up inside underneath, like you see here. That weather stripping is going to make sure, again, we don't have any rattles or kind of audible issues. So I will say also, the headroom, you know, of course, is going to be reduced with a setup like this. So you need to keep that in mind. If you are in a place where you do not have to wear helmets to ride your side-by-side, then this is definitely a non-issue. There's plenty of headroom. If you do have to wear a helmet, the thing you're going to find is by going to this lowered look, your bar is of course lowered. Now I will tell you that there's still plenty of room, and that's really not an issue, but we want to keep that in perspective. Also, just to give you a look, you can see that the roof comes into play on our visual. So I would probably like it to be more about right there. And I'm probably looking at cutting this off, is probably what I'm going to end up doing. So right about here where the bracket kind of meets, this is about the point I would want to just slice straight across and remove all of this. So that's something I'm going to be looking at doing here pretty soon. The other reason I'm doing that is because when you get into some speed, I did a quick test drive with this just right on the streets. This portion here is kind of soft. And what it does is when the wind hits it, it starts a little bit of a vibration. It seems like it works through it. So the vibration kind of comes on and goes away. I think I was hitting it at around 35, 40 miles an hour. Now that vibration though can go up into the rest of the roof, and it could create a little bit of a rattle. Weather stripping would resolve that. I don't think it's anything structural an issue. It was just more annoying than anything. And by me cutting that back, that's definitely going to remove that. I don't think that's a deal breaker for buying this roof, especially at the price by any means, but it's something you want to just keep in perspective that could happen. So just, you know, keep it in mind. But overall, really happy with the way it looks. The cutouts in the back here to match the shape of the frame look really, really nice and stylish. Really simple thing they did. The structure up front to kind of reinforce it, where it does have to go up above the bar to be able to match up and stay flat. That came out really nice and looks really, really good. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this. As I step back, you can see compared to the other, it really cleaned up the look, made it really nice and aggressive looking, real streamlined. So overall, good roof. You're going to need to make some modifications. You're going to want to buy some foam, weather stripping. You're going to need to do some grinding. That's something you'll need to do. And then you'll need to make a judgment call on, hey, do I want the Dooner one that goes all the way up here, or do I want the lowered, which is coming all the way down? And again, I'm going to kind of hybrid that by going right around here and slicing off that 4 inches or so to increase my view and prevent possible vibration. But overall, a very, very cool, inexpensive route if you want to get away from that plastic roof. Okay, guys, well, that's pretty much it. Well, thanks for watching, guys. As always, please subscribe if you can to our channel. Definitely helps us grow and do cool new projects. I'm going to follow up more on this roof. I'm going to actually put it to use on President's Day weekend. I'm also going to have a video of some of the modification of cutting the front off. That'll be coming here shortly. But thanks again for watching the video. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to use the comments down below, and I'll do my best to be able to help you guys out. Good luck and have fun.